Welcome back. It has been a while. My name's Phil from the Dark Orb.
And I'm Neil from Paladin Roleplaying. And today we are talking about the brand new role-playing game currently on BackKit, TAZ by Mana Project Studios.
Now, I don't think that this game is about the Tasmanian devil from the cartoons back in the 90s, right? That would be
I'm off
amazing.
then. That's the only reason I was here.
Ah, curses. But I think this is something that could be quite interesting for various reasons. It's by Mana Project Studio, who had some interesting, so interesting as many times as possible, projects lately, including the Cowboy Bebop role-playing game, which definitely existed. I took a look at it. I didn't love it. Felt a little bit contrived, even though I absolutely adore the IP. But this looks like it's something a little bit different. So hang about and let us know what you think in the comments down below. Come and talk to us on Discord with Devious Dungeons, Foreboding Forest, and the coolest cats. And Neil, who doesn't like cats very much.
True, I don't. Sorry.
Welcome back to the Dark Orb. Here we are. It has been a little while since we've done this, so yeah, we're a little rusty.
It has. Yeah, does it show?
Oh man, it is so good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too.
How
It's
are
been a while.
things?
Yeah, all right.
All
All
right,
right.
we caught up briefly at UK Games Expo. I say briefly, a couple of times. We broke bread at UK Games
We
Expo.
did. We did.
It was fun. It was fun.
It was, as it always is, knackering, but
Yeah, more so for you.
always
You
good.
were working. Um, Before we kick off, speaking of aggressive bread, I've got a beer. Have you got a beer today?
I've got a beer too.
Hey, what have you got?
Well, in your honor, Phil, I've got a beer from one of your local breweries, Neon Raptor. I've got Prince of Darkness, coffee and vanilla stout. I haven't had it before. It's been sat around for a little while, and I thought this might be the perfect time to give it a try.
Obviously, also in honor of Ozzy Osbourne's final ever kind of live performance, as he is, the Prince of Darkness.
Right.
And that
Yesterday,
was
which you were at.
I was at. So, cheers, Ozzy, and
Very
everything that
excited.
you've done for
Right.
all kinds of music in the last, million years. Right, I have got a Siren Marshmallow Mountain Chocolate Marshmallow Porter. I
Mm.
have a love-hate relationship with Siren. They're kind of cheap, but do you know what? I'm feeling kind of cheap at the moment, so this will do. And it's what are we at? Like 5%, I think. 5.1% of questionable
Don't say that
porter
till you've
goodness.
tried it.
I'm sure it'll be
It might be
great.
amazing. Mine's gone everywhere. It's a bit
Excellent.
lively,
That's the
as
Neon
quote on the
Raptor
can.
way of doing things. I love Neon Raptor.
It
Um,
is, isn't it?
but
Did I tell you I sent a Neon Raptor beer to a friend of mine, and he had it in his cupboard for a few days, and it exploded. The whole top literally came off when all of his cupboard.
was it just basically raging that he hadn't drunk it?
Yeah, maybe. Not that I'm in any way criticizing Neon Raptor, who, as you know, I love.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
look, this is a lively beer.
yeah.
It
Mine's
has
already
too much head.
lost its head. This is my Nottingham Craft Beer Festival glass. Sadly, I
Nice.
didn't manage to go to that this year for various reasons, including money and being at an Iron Maiden concert, which I think are two good reasons to not be there.
Yeah. They're fair reasons, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, we got quite a bit of gigging in, and yeah, shameless plug if you like music. The Dark Orb Rocks over on our sister channel has some music shit on it. But we're not here to talk about music, we're here to talk
Oh,
about games.
great
And
game.
Taz is a post-cyberpunk tabletop role-playing game about resistance and loss of control. Set in a world stripped of all its resources, you play as desperate idealists searching for a place to build a free enclave far from the tentacles of dystopia. That sounds very jolly.
It sounds like both of our cups of tea, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Dark, dystopian.
Yeah, just like Taz from from the
Yeah,
early
exactly.
90s,
Exactly. Yeah.
whenever
Yeah.
they were. Right, so we should probably dive a little bit into the setting to begin with. This is a role-playing game that's set in a very jolly time. Post-cyberpunk, I think, is really interesting. So my interpretation of that is you almost take your Blade Runner or here's a deep cut burn cycle kind of
Hmm.
world, and then you screw it up some more. So we've got a kind of scorched earth thing going on upstairs, and to quote the kickstart, and he said quick start then. Yeah, it's to quote the quick start. To quote the quick start.
Why didn't you quote the quickstart?
Yeah, well, I can't quote the kickstart because it's on Backakit. This is Backakit your weekend. It is a post-apocalyptic world where there are no animals and only a few new species of microbes which are acceleratingly, kind of exponentially growing. And obviously that's going to be some kind of meta plot down the line that I haven't managed to get to so far. Maybe that's in the quick start. I haven't managed to read all of that yet. But upstairs is the free earth. It is a desiccated, ruined landscape dotted with occasional corporate outposts, artificial groves that create oxygen for Subteria, whatever you want to call it. Dust-caked slums where surplus workers wait for job creation, with schemes that never come, prisons for the digitized minds of those who dared to rebel, and towering, oppressive corpocop precincts casting their long shadow over the wastelands. There are space elevators that take wealthy sightseers from Subteria up to the corporate orbital stations, where they can admire the remains of the planet like tiny newborn gods exulting in the devastation they have left in their wake. And what I think is really interesting in this world is effectively water and oxygen have been commoditized, and oxygen, probably water as well, are used as a currency because they're not kind of naturally forming. Immediately this brought to mind, and I've not read the comic, but the old movie, which I guess is like a B movie, from again the 90s, Tank Girl. And in Tank Girl, water is very much a commodity. You've got this company called Water and Power, and they control all of the water, and they've got all of the power, and they're pulling water from, spoiler alert, pull water from like dead bodies and things like that to make it a commoditized resource. And so that's what the upstairs, what the surface level of this universe reminds me of. What about you? What's intriguing you, and is there anything that's kind of caught your eye so far?
Yeah, so setting wise, I love that sort of scorched earth kind of idea, and that's already appealing. But what they've done that I really like is, you mentioned their Subteria, I guess I'm going to go with, as the name suggests, being the underground world. And so they're very much going for a split, aren't they, between these two different worlds?
Yeah.
Again, from the quick start, Subteria is the has glitzy, coruscating temples, the invisible hand of the market, tower above the maze-like underground streets of synthetic quartz, gilded flesh, and biomass. Their glamorous facades are nothing but the last manifestations of an extremist ideology that's held this earth in its grip for many thousands of years. You could call it a state religion, but there are many states down here. To be more precise, many kingdoms. Democracy died along with the last trees on the surface above. This is a land of dreams, a tangle of fungal hothouses and limb cultivations, cybernetic laboratories, and synth ampoules, a morass of human suffering and desire caught desperately between the molten core and the irradiated surface of the earth. It's more cheerful stuff, isn't it?
It kind of sounds like a place I used to work. Yeah, exactly. But I think that's really interesting. And whilst these worlds have been seen elsewhere, these kind of settings, I really like that they're being pulled together, and you've got that strong contrast between them. They talk about the Earth being a place of conflict and desolation, a rust-coloured, ravaged wasteland dotted with mountain ridges, canyons, and rare corporate settlements, ruins of ancient cities and abandoned skyscrapers in the depth of desolation. So in terms of video games, I'm kind of thinking of things like Horizon Zero Dawn, where you have these literal husks, and we'll come back to that word, of former fantastic buildings that, because of the time that has progressed, I would presume are actually almost, they're like fallen temples now. There are these ruins of really interesting, and interesting in that setting, but corporate battlefields almost.
And corporate is the word, isn't it? The idea of
Yeah,
Subteria is that, like it says, that democracy's gone. Everything's ruled by the big corporations, and
yeah,
they're all presumably vying with one another. I think from the quick start, it's not quite clear how much the game intends to get into the politics of that kind of
yeah,
thing, but I imagine it probably does. I think they probably want to go there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. The setting is great. What do we know about the system?
Well, this is what first attracted me to the game, or first caught my eye, because this is and I think a lot of people might not be familiar with this term yet, but it's a sparked by the resistance game.
Mm,
And that means that it's based on the resistance system first found in the wonderful, there it is, Spire the City Must Fall, one of my absolute favorite games of all time by Roman Rick and Deckard, written by Grant Howitt and Christopher Taylor. Um, and they released an SRD for the system and made it free for anyone to use some time ago, some years ago. To the best of my knowledge, this is the first sort of big game by a well-known, reasonably well-known studio to use
mm.
it. Do you agree, Phil? Do you know of any others previously?
I have kept my taken my eye off the ball a little bit lately, but I'm like you, not familiar with certainly with anything with a big budget behind it. There might be a few
Yeah,
little games here and
there's
there.
a few little sort of indie
Yeah,
things I know,
yeah.
um,
But I mean,
and
this
what?
is a big studio, so well, it's still an
Yeah,
independent
well,
studio, but
yeah,
you know,
but yeah.
real people.
And what's interesting is that Grant Howitt and Chris Taylor from RRD are credited as consultants in the front of the book. So
Nice.
hard to know how much involvement they've had, whether they've just cast their eye over and given a quick sort of thumbs up, or whether
Yeah.
they've been actively involved throughout the development. Don't know. There's no real sense of that. Um, but in any case, it's a lovely system, and it's been tweaked for this game for sure. But the basics are there, and I love the system because it's for me, and I like more narrative-driven games, as you do, Phil. I know.
Mm.
Um, it's crunchy enough to work, but really, really, really simple.
Yeah.
It's D10 based system, D10 dice pool, and basically it's as simple as you get a D10 to start with. You get another D10 if you have the skill applicable to the situation. You get another D10 if you have what in the other games is called a domain, and in this game is called a conviction that's relative to the situation. And then you get another D10 if you have mastery, which is normally given to you by like some equipment or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's your dice pool. And then you chuck them all, and you are looking for the highest result, highest single result you can. And it's the normal sort of critical, standard success, fail, or critical fail, depending what your highest result is. And that's kind of it. And it's the same in combat. It's the same for everything. It's basically just that simple kind of D10 system. Really nice. It works really well, in my opinion. And there's a couple of other little tweaks, like you can have difficulty, which means you remove a dice
Yeah.
once you've rolled them, like you remove the highest dice, that kind of thing. But um, essentially, that is basically it.
So we're just showing the well, a little bit from the quick start here, and yeah, you've got your dice, D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, and that's all you need. And yeah, if you've watched or played any of those previously mentioned RRD games, that's all you need to know, really, isn't it? In terms
Basically,
of the game, we've played a bit of the Spire.
played a bit of Spire, yeah.
Yeah, not on the channel. I don't think we ever managed to get it
No, I think that
streamed.
might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe at some point we'll manage to do that. I have Spire and I've got Heart. Actually, I've got Die as well. But you very kindly ran those for members of our Discord, which was great fun.
And a
So
lot of fun it was.
yeah, if you want to play more games, come join our
Join the
Discord,
Discord.
and we'll suggest games that are available for our specifically for our patrons, but also for other members of the Discord if we've got spaces. And if we can actually get everyone to agree on a day, which
The
is
old
the
herding
perennial
cats
challenge,
problem,
yeah,
isn't it? Just
and then maybe that game will actually run. Right, but that's the set. That's the setting. And that's the system. What more can we talk about? How about husks and people in general? So I kind of feel there's a little bit of a ghost in the shell thing going on to an extent here.
okay.
My interpretation is that you can go everywhere from, well, so first of all, the megacorps need ways of having people work the surface despite there being no breathable air and limited water and that sort of stuff. So my interpretation is that they have created augmentations, husks, which enable their workers to perform in challenging environments. I presume there's also black market in this as well, and non-corporation augmentations. And that can go everywhere from I want a replacement hand all the way to I'm a full cyborg. And that the majority of, at least the more left-leaning people, view that your soul, your own entity, is almost like a spiritual thing, and so your physical body almost doesn't exist because it's what's your soul that matters. And that is where, for me, the ghost in the shell thing comes in that it kind of feels like you can take your consciousness and put it into, or altered carbon, I suppose, is another alternative here, into another body, and it's still you. That's my interpretation. I don't know if you share that.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And I think the quick start doesn't quite make it clear exactly how this is gonna work. There's different levels, aren't there? They divide it into levels: cyborg and full borg, and don't know what the others are called. Can't remember now.
MÖRK BORG. No, wait.
No, that's a different one. Basically depending on how much meat you are and how much augmentation. But quite a nice touch is that it's only the ultra rich sort of corporate CEOs who are fully human, fully flesh with no augmentation, because basically they're showing off pretty much because they can, which is quite a nice little touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, and some of the augmentations are pretty full on. You know, they're calling this post-cyberpunk. So it's not just that you can have a mechanical arm or guns incorporated into you. You can be all sorts of weird forms, can't you? And you can slice directly into the internet or whatever the internet is in this system in one of the roles. And all kinds of crazy stuff. Really, really interesting. So likely your PC will not be a human with a couple of metal bits, but some kind of quite crazy
an evolved life form almost.
Yeah.
But manually evolved. And it doesn't, what I quite liked is the line is not drawn at machinery augmentations. There was also this concept of having a symbiosis, which again is still an augmentation, with other life. So fungus, I think, was one that was mentioned in the quick start.
Yeah, they seem big on fungus in this game, which is cool because fungus is cool.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and certainly if you like the sound of this, I definitely recommend grabbing the quick start, which is free. It's on the back of kit page. We'll go through back of kit very shortly, and having a look. There are some nice images in there as well, so we'll look at these more in detail in a second. But you know, this looks like an epic concert happening. It's really interesting. Some kind of proselytizing going on, and also we had another one. I'd love to know what's going on here.
Yeah, right. Whatever's really going on is pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and all of the hands. Yeah, this is clearly an all hands meeting. Yeah.
Can I just mention
away?
Can I mention my one possible reservation?
You can.
So the thing that I love about Spire and Heart is that they are hugely narrative led,
I think I know where you're
and
going with this, and I think I
yeah,
already agree. Keep going.
the system kind of just gets out the way
Mm,
and lets you tell a fun story.
yes.
And I know that the writers, when they were writing that game, wanted to create a game where the players could surprise the GM. I think that's Grant Howitt's
Yeah.
term, the way he put it. And that's done by the abilities. The
Yes.
characters' abilities in Spire and Heart are absolutely superb, and they make the game, in my opinion. And
I
they do
agree.
that because they're they're not all, but they're mostly very narrative driven. So, for instance, you get abilities like the Inksmith has an ability that I think once per session you can declare that something is present in the scene if
Yeah.
it would be there in a schlocky pulp horror novel.
Mm,
Of course, there's a shotgun behind the bar. Of course, there's a trapdoor beneath the altar,
yeah.
that sort of thing. Or one of the other characters has an ability once per session declare that any two NPCs are related somehow. The GM says how. And there's all these fun little things that just add so much to the story. And when I've been running the game, the players have really picked that up and run with it. And it takes a bit of thinking on your feet as a GM,
Yeah.
but it's what makes the game. Now, from the quick start of TAZ, I don't see that. Now, they don't have a full list of abilities in here because that's not part of the quick start. They do have pre-gens in the back. And
Yes.
all of the abilities that the pre-gens have are very mechanical. They're more like you'd find in any other game. So in this situation, you get advantage on, or get an extra d6 when such and such, which is fine. Those things are all useful and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I don't see is the very, very narrative focused storytelling type abilities, which, in my opinion, make the original Sparked by the Resistance games. And maybe that's deliberate. Maybe they were going for a different kind of game or a different kind of theme.
Yeah.
But that just stood out to me because that, for me, is a really crucial part of what makes Spire and Heart such wonderful games.
Yeah.
And I don't see, which is not to say this isn't a wonderful game, but just, I don't know.
Changes the look and feel quite a
Observation.
lot, doesn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not as confident as an improvisational GM as you are, so I don't see that so much as a blocker, but I do feel that it does. Maybe it loses one of the most important components of the system when you take away the thing that makes that system the most different from other games.
That's my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, some people, like, you could play Spire or Heart in a bit of a different way. I don't
Just
think
say
it would be the
no.
way it's intended. Yeah, I don't think it'd be intended that way. But like some of the abilities are much more mechanical, so you could just take them and not lean into the narrative stuff so much. But like for me, that's sort of the point in the system.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
don't know.
agree.
That's
Yeah,
my only question mark.
I agree. I think that's definitely a thing to be aware of, particularly if you're coming from one of those prior games, um, you know, Spire, Heart, Die, where there is an awful lot of player agency. As a relatively new gamer, particularly new role player, even if not a new GM, it's probably a little bit more straightforward. Or if you're coming from a more GM versus player, I'd say that term kind of lightly, but that more of a adversarial or
Traditional, maybe.
traditional, that's a good way of putting it, relationship between the player and the GM, then it's probably a little bit easier.
Hmm.
But there are a certain number of gamers who view games that way, and they tend to fall into a couple of specific product type or product followers. So obviously I'm referring to typical D&D gaming, typical um, uh, games that are very derived from the old 1980s traditional gaming. So not specifically D&D, but like, your old BRP games, your old D&D based games where the GM is setting a challenge that the players are overcoming. It's not that you're creating a world together and telling a story where everyone is uncovering what's happening in real time. So,
and of course, anyone can play any game however they like, and however you want to play it at your table is the right way to play it. But I never understand the argument that some people make that the system doesn't really matter. The system does matter because it defines what's easy to do and simple to do, and encourages you to act in a certain way. So I think by having those sorts of abilities in Spire, or by having certain mechanics in a game, then that encourages you to play a certain way.
I agree.
I'm not quite sure from the quick start what way we're intended to play TAZ, actually.
Yeah. No, me too. Not me either. Shall we check out the campaign?
Let's
do it. So we are in back kit. There are 17 days at time of recording, depending on when you see that. It'll be, or when you see this recording, it'll be different, obviously. And it's not actually shot up that much. I think one thing that is unfortunate about not using Kickstarter is that you get an awful lot more publicity using Kickstarter over BackerKit or GameFound. It's just different.
Yeah.
Which is annoying because Kickstarter does kind of suck. But it's the way it is. And yeah, so they've hit 38,000 euros, which is probably about £50,000 at the way that the exchange rate currently is right now. But I guess that's actually probably about 35. Don't know. You can probably have a quick look. Let's see. 38 euros in pounds. 32. Okay.
32. Okay.
We're doing a little bit better than I expected here in the UK. So nearly 33 grand, thereabouts.
Over 400 backers. Pretty respectable.
Yeah, not bad at all. Let's see if we can check out the video, which I actually haven't watched yet, and find out how this looks and feels.
In this world, deprived of its resources, crushed by the dystopian powers of Subteria, you can only do one thing. You can resist. TAZ, a post-cyberpunk RPG. You play a desperate idealist trying to build your TAZ, a free enclave from tyranny. It won't be easy at all, as your TAZ could collapse and you might lose control. But you are ready to fight back, to do whatever it takes to protect what you have built. Will you survive in a world dominated by corporations that seek to uproot your home? Break your chains, be the seed of hope. Join the resistance.
Nice.
And with this, I am informed that there's something really important that we've forgotten to do. Neil, what on earth is a TAZ?
Yes, that's true.
Fail.
I mean, it can't be that important. It's barely mentioned in the name of the game. A TAZ, Phil, as well you know, is a temporary autonomous zone. It's basically so what's quite interesting is it's basically your base.
Yeah.
So you make this TAZ, and what's quite interesting is that the TAZ gets its own character sheet, or well, not character, but gets its own sheet, and it looks like there's quite a detailed process for. There's these 4 stages that a TAZ goes through. Where you set it up and then it grows and develops and then gradually crumbles or falls apart, and that's all tracked on the character sheet. And then you can upgrade your TAZ, and you can have NPCs and different like facilities in the TAZ, and it has its own resistances, which is kind of hit points effectively.
Yeah.
And so that's quite cool. I think that's quite interesting.
I think so. I view the TAZ a little bit like, so in Free League games like Mutant Year Zero and even The Walking Dead, which I must actually open the starter set for, is up here. There, just off camera. At some point, you have the idea of like safe havens, which is like it's your village almost. and it's your home. Or it might be analogous to your ship if you're playing a sci-fi game. So something that has modules and develops over time, and you build cool stuff on top of it. I like the idea that it's temporary. So they're kind of acknowledging that at some point the corps are going to find them and rip it all down.
Yeah.
But for now, this is where we are. This is our literal base of resistance against the oppressive forces of everyone else, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, temporary autonomous zones. We probably should have talked about that at the top.
Probably should have. Yeah, probably should have opened with that, but hey, we got there.
We did. So yeah, early bird. This is too late now. You'll have to pay for the patch if you want it. There are a few different pledges available. This one, the post-human pledge, is I think pretty much the most expensive one. You get a copy of.
That's what I believe we call the fill level.
It is what we call the fill level. Although sadly, I'm not sure the fill is actually getting this game. Purely because, as I said, I'm not the most great.
The fill doesn't have the money at the moment.
And that there is that as well. But we shall see. But you get here the fancy schmancy, very, very orange collector's edition of the.
It does look lovely though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of clashes though.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
You know, it would look good next to like Die or something on the shelf, but unfortunately, my shelves are all in alphabetical order, so it's not gonna go there.
Also, I think it's not unusual these days, but the difference in price between the standard edition and the deluxe edition is, I think it's about 30 quid for a fancy cover. And I think it's like a faux leather embossed kind of gilded fancy schmancy thing. But
yes.
I mean, for me, I
look, it's €100 for the deluxe.
Yeah, there we go. What's the standard then?
Less. 60, so it's €40.
So it's €40. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I do own limited edition games that just have a fancy cover.
Yeah, same. And they're lovely. But do you use them?
I'm happy, and they are lovely. They're absolutely beautiful, and I'm happy to pay a bit more for them. I don't know for me if I want to pay an extra €40 just for a fancy cover.
Do you actually use your limited edition books, or do you just keep them for best?
Some of them. Yeah. Some I do, some I don't. It depends if I have to or not.
Yeah, exactly. The overview, sparked by resistance. We've talked about this before. The resistance system has been hacked. So you have classes such as the tank, singularity, resistances, and you have fallouts, which are kind of consequences, really.
And tank is interesting because, of course, we, as gamers, we think of the tank being the character with the massive armor, who strides to the front of battle. That's not at all what they mean here. They mean an oxygen-producing tank, so like a tank of oxygen.
Not like methane-producing tanks, like you and I, then.
Gas bags. Yes.
I like the character sheet. I like how simple it is. They've cut it down. Compared to many other games, it's pretty straightforward. And you have that kind of powered by the apocalypse kind of playbooky kind of feel that we saw in the other Sparked games. We talked about the TAZ itself being a character. So this is like equivalent to your ship sheet or your base of operations sheet, and that develops over time. The group maintains that. And the artwork is really nice. It's a little cartoony, which again reminds me of some of the Rowan Rook and Deckard things. We talked about cyborg husks, semi-artificial bodies, and some of these pictures are absolutely gorgeous. The core book, you've got two different variants, €40 difference between them. Not forgetting that, of course, we have this whole tariff thing going on at the moment. I believe Mana Project Studio are in Europe. So,
I think they're Italian, I believe.
Yes, of course they are. I knew that. Which is great. There have been some really good Italian role-playing game companies.
Need Games as well, who do Fabula Ultima. They're also...
Yeah. And Two Little Mice, 2LM Publishing, they're Italian.
Right, okay.
And Francesco Nepitello, who ended up working on that. But of course, was responsible for The One Ring.
Mm.
Two Little Mice, who did Broken Compass and Outgunned and other things.
Yeah, that's cool, isn't it? It's all
Totally
going on in
forgotten the
Italy
name
at
of
the
their
moment.
borrowers kind of game.
Oh, I know.
We're going to call it Housework. That one. Home.
It is house something, isn't it?
Home Boy.
Yeah. Okay. Homeboy housework. That's the one.
No one wants to do that. But yeah, it's great to see a resurgence of publishers from Italy. Also, we're seeing them out of Eastern Europe as well. So there's a few Ukrainian companies that are springing at the moment, and Poland, etc. as well. So that's really cool. What I like is that they do seem to be putting quite a lot into the book. So there's not going to be too much ambiguity, and that they're producing a scenario book.
I love that. That one of the things that
Really
these days will put me off buying a brand new game is because I just don't have time to write my own stuff. I love the idea, but I mainly, well, pretty much exclusively run published scenarios and campaigns. And so the fact this is coming out of the gate, you don't have to wait 6 months, you don't have to wait a year. Right now, you can get scenario book. That for me is a massive bonus.
Yeah,
huge.
And hopefully they'll produce that at the same time, and you won't end up waiting a year for it to show up.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
you've
true.
said that.
Yeah,
and
also by the look of that, I mean, I know that's only a mock-up, but we're not talking about a little pamphlet here. We're talking about a decent size campaign book. Very cool.
Absolutely. And then you've got the accessories. So nice, pretty GM screen, which hopefully has got some useful stuff on the back, because all too often they don't, or they have stuff that's really useful either in your first couple of sessions when you're character creating, or
putting character creation stuff on a GM screen. Don't do it. It's useless.
No. And the other thing is when it's the opposite, when it's like, and this, we both love Symbaroum, but the most recent Symbaroum GM screen, which was the Davokar one, pretty much has things that you're only going to need when you're 5 years into the campaign. Which, if like me, you've only managed to get through the first book, and that took your team, your group, 3 years because everyone's just role playing too much.
Bloody role players.
How dare they have fun? Yeah, so I'm very lucky. I managed to track down the original GM screen for Symbaroum, and that's the one I used because it actually just has basic stuff in it, which is
stuff you need.
Yeah, it's the crap we've not played in 6 weeks. I can't remember
how the hell
really
does this
obvious
rule?
thing.
Oh, where's this table that I need?
Exactly. So GM screen, you get a cardboard map. I think they say cardboard, and in British English that makes me think of some kind of flimsy, like thin bit of cardboard, but I'm hoping what they mean by that is it's going to be closer to the kind of almost like GM screen or
I'm imagining the board you'd get with the board game, kind of that sort of much thicker.
And that's what I'm hoping.
I'm hoping. Yeah.
Rather than something where you hold it up by one corner and the whole thing droops like an uncooked sausage. And you get tokens. We'll like tokens, and of course dice. And then we have the pledge levels. I gotta say, I think their pricing for the PDF is spot on.
I think people have got to be willing to pay. I know we've talked about this before, Phil, haven't we? But I think we should all be willing to pay more for PDFs. I think it's easy to think, well, there's nothing, right? You don't get anything. It's just digital, but it's the whole work of the game. It's the art. It's everything.
Yeah.
So I think, €30.
Yeah, actually printing at least when it comes to the book, because they're doing such a large volume, the actual printing of the book, excluding transport, logistics, is not that much.
Yeah, right.
Compared to the cost of actually creating the art in the first place.
The game in the first place, absolutely.
There is obviously a point where it breaks even because you've paid for that all. But at least in initial production, the cost of the actual physical item is pretty trivial. Standard edition core book, we're talking Monty Cook Games pricing here. Basically. And I love Monty Cook Games, but...
Me too.
You know,
€60 for the standard book. Possibly a bit pricey. I don't know if that's being affected by, as you say, tariffs and there's the uncertain situation. Maybe they're kind of covering their bases there because who knows what the hell is going to happen by the time it's printed. But
Yeah.
80 there they're saying is the backer kit price, 60 for the backer kit price, and 85 retail price.
Yeah. And I think at that price, it probably won't sell very well when it hits retail.
I wouldn't have thought so. If it really is going to be 85.
Yeah, you're going to wait until you see it in sale.
Yeah, probably.
And by that point, it'll probably be end of line, unfortunately. Or €100 for the limited, very, very orange rulebook.
I love that orange though. Personally, I really, really like that.
It
and
hurts
that
my
cover
eyes.
design.
All the orange in this.
You're not so sure, are you? I like it.
Yeah. I used to ride motorcycles, and of course, the Kawasaki and KTM always had these kind of bright coloured. I think KTM had the bright orange, Kawasaki had the lime green, and I'm an old meller, or an old rocker to be more accurate. So I like my dark colours, my blacks and blues. So for me, Spire's cover.
Okay, yeah, the sort of bluey.
That's about right for me. I mean, which way? That way. If it was these sorts of colours, then yeah. Traditionally, I probably would have just bought it because it looked nice. So yeah, there's that. But €100, really. And then we got the full Borg, the everything, but without
I think
the collector's
you get
edition.
your scenario book for that. You get your standard edition book, your scenario book,
Yeah.
PDF, of course. I'd assume that was always included with the physical purchase.
Yeah,
and then
GMs,
your
yeah.
GM screen and your cardboard map and your dice and your tokens.
Mm.
See, that now suddenly feels like better value again to me.
It does.
With the scenario book too.
It does, but it's still an awful lot of money. €150 for
It is
effectively.
I mean, there's no denying it. Yeah.
I mean, you've got 2 books, a GM screen, a map, and some dice and some tokens. But when you compare that to the post-human, which is again, and this bugs me a little bit, it's literally the same price bump as going from the standard book to the core book, to the deluxe book.
They're not giving you a discount on that.
No, I feel like, and maybe this is where we need to check the actual cost of the add-ons, but you kind of want the bundle to be incentivized a bit. So
yeah, I know what you mean.
Maybe that's something we can look at in a second. Do we have add-ons here? Let's have a look.
I think you have to go to the next screen. Yeah.
So if we were to look just at this, so hardcover 33.95, so 95, 125, 128, and then 68, 76. Yeah, so it's a little bit cheaper. But it's still, I don't know, there's something about it that feels a little bit odd, having that price jump the way it is.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I guess it's good that they've literally every item is listed in the add-ons, so you can build your own.
Absolutely.
If you just want the core book and the dice, or the.
And I think they have priced it such that actually you probably would jump it. So, if I get the standard edition core book, which was as a pledge 60. Wait, that doesn't make sense.
The hardcover there add-on is 48.
But you don't get the PDF, I guess.
Okay.
So that would be my guess there. So if you don't care about the PDF, probably the best thing to do would be to get the...
Yeah, you'd get a £1 pledge. Does that
exist? What if you get the punk, so €30, and then add the... So if you get the punk and then you add that 48, that's 78 to get the PDF for both books and the hardcover. So you're looking about 100 and I'm not going to do the arithmetic accurately, but like 120 or so for both of those and both PDFs. And then, yeah, if that's all you wanted, that's still cheaper than getting the all-in pledge.
Yeah, so you could play around with it, couldn't you?
You could. You could have a mess. But this is really boring. No one wants to talk about maths. So, yeah, I do like it. I think it's really
Yeah, I like it.
interesting. I think potentially a lot of fun to be had at the table. If you are interested in
Yeah.
a proper cyberpunky type game, but you want that post-apocalyptic feel more so than you would get in Blade Runner, more towards the blend of Spire with that kind of Fallout vibe. But actually, do you know what? Maybe less than Fallout. It's more towards the Vermin. We played the game
Okay.
Vermin, which you can see the stream of. We've got it in our channel. We did an actual play of that, where nature had overtaken everything. But I think that type of post-apocalyptic feel, where the landscape is against you.
Yeah.
That maybe
And like you
that's
say, you've
something.
got the whole transhuman sort of altered carbon kind of vibe in
Yeah,
there as well, haven't you?
yeah. I think it's pretty interesting.
Hmm. Very.
So the question is, are you going to back it? Let us know.
I haven't decided yet personally.
I haven't
You
either.
were talking to the audience, not me.
I was, but you are
But I
equally
answered
valid
anyway.
because you are here.
Thanks. I'm more valid because I'm here and I'm the only one who can actually answer you.
Yeah, but no one
And
actually answers me. Are you going to back it, Neil?
I don't know. I have been. I'm very tempted, actually. I've been holding off. I haven't. Hang on, is this true? This is true. I haven't backed a single crowdfunded game this year.
I've backed one.
Which, given
Yeah.
that, oh really? Yeah. Okay. Which was?
Astra Arcanum. I gave in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Given that I was backing one a month or so, and I know you were probably
Yeah, it's
backing
been
more
insane.
than that.
Yeah.
And that's mainly financial. I'm just trying to save my pennies, and that the old thing of not having games on the shelf that I haven't played and want to play. So
And even
there's a
doing that is a
limit to how
challenge.
many games I can buy and have time to play. So
Yep.
so with all that in mind, I don't know, but this is the first game that's tempted me really all year. There hasn't been anything else where I've gone, oh yeah, no, that looks really nice. So
Yeah.
I think I might actually.
I mean, even with free league games, I haven't really been backing much. My original rule was only back something if it's significantly different from what you've already got on the shelf, or it supports something that you're already running or playing. And with that in mind, I think one of the last things that I backed was a cult expansion. What's frustrating with that is that on top of the original pledge, they've added like 3 or 4 additional books as add-ons. So if you want to buy everything from that campaign, you're looking at like €200, which is an awful lot. And honestly, I've not run Cult since we did the special a couple of years ago
Really?
for Oktoberfest.
That was a while ago, yeah.
It was a couple of years, and probably 3 years. And I really enjoyed it. I think the challenge with Cult is you have to have a group who are willing to go on that journey with you. And that's quite hard to do remotely. It's quite hard to do in person as well. And yeah, it's a lot of investment, psychological investment to do it. There's a lot of trust that's needed as well. And if everyone at the table's not quite 100% ready for that, it can be a little bit challenging. You also need to have some time for a decompress afterwards, because those sessions can be pretty heavy. But I'd love to get more Cult on the show. Maybe we just need to pick an adventure and do it.
Maybe.
That was the last thing that I backed, other than Astra Arcanum, which was a bit of an impulse and probably a very unwise idea. But I think this one probably I will give a miss, or I'll grab the PDF for. That's most likely it. Not because I don't think it looks great. I really do. I just don't think I would get it to the table. But I would love to play it. So I guess we should ask the audience as well. We do value you. We love that you're here. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're enjoying, please like and subscribe and all of that jazz.
Do the thing.
Yeah, all that stuff. Are you going to back it? Do you have any concerns about it? What do you wish that you knew more about? Have you read the quickstart? Are you from Mana Project Studio and you want to come and talk to us about the project? Hit us up. We're here.
Do that.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. I think it's definitely worth checking out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun at the table, provided that you, as a GM, have the capacity, like the time to get your head around the setting and actually delve in, because these sorts of games, this sort of system is very different to your bread and butter D20 game, and your players need to be on board with that. If you are, this is going to be super cool. I have no doubt. So yeah, let us know down in the comments. Come and talk to us on Discord. The link is also down below. And that's that, I guess. In the meantime, before we're back, Neil, how can people find you if they want to know more? And what is Paladin Roleplaying?
What on earth is Paladin Roleplaying? Paladin Roleplaying is your friendly local, brackets maybe not local, provider of
Same
dice
planet.
and other accoutrements for role-playing games, mainly dice. We have a bunch of cool dice, quite a lot of stuff that you're not going to find elsewhere in acrylic, resin, stone, and metal. And you can find those dice and me at paladinroleplaying.com. And if it's your first order, you can actually, it doesn't matter if it's your first order or not, come to think of it. If it's any order at all and you haven't used it before, you can use the Dark Orb discount code, which is Phil.
It is not Phil.
No, it's not Phil. I think it's Dark Orb 15. I should have looked it up.
I think it's Dark Orb 15 as well. We'll double check.
So this is where Phil is gonna add something in post, right?
It'll be right here.
It's right there. Use that
look, there
discount.
it is.
right there, which I think is Dark Orb 15.
I'm fairly sure it's Dark Orb 15. We didn't plan that very well.
We didn't, did we?
Yeah, obviously, please, check out our other videos. We've got a bunch like this under the Kickstart Your Weekend. We also have actual plays. We do plan on getting back into it and having more stuff, as we know it's been a little bit of a hiatus, but it's always lovely to have Neil on the channel. We can drink beer, skål, and talk rubbish at you. So I hope you had fun. Please let us know down below what you think of this and what we should be looking at next. If there's something on Kickstarter or coming to Kickstarter, or if you've got a favourite game that you think we need to be exploring that's in this realm, let us know, and we will probably maybe consider checking that out.
Probably maybe at least think about it.
Yeah. Right, until next time, I hope your dice rolls are way better than mine. Of course, if you're using Neil's Paladin Roleplaying dice, then your dice rolls will always be great.
You're always going to crit. Yeah.
No, yeah. Probably fail, but crit nonetheless.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. Great to see you.
See ya.